impactful, and then we need to see if they dig deeper for a third round. We know Vander plays Karma, and Fnatic was even banning it in the quarterfinals for a while too. But also, some of these bans, like, you can't leave open, like the Shen, for example.
There've also been a lot of priority on the Bard ban away from Mickey to make sure that he doesn't have as much lane presence as he's typically known for.
Honestly, I think a wasted ban, because Bard right now in the current meta, as much as it pains me, in standard lanes isn't actually that impactful.
I did tell the entire crowd, though, that if Bard ever gets locked in, that they have to cheer as loud as possible. So maybe it's a little more meta ban.
I know, I was watching. Sifa did the crowd warm-up. That's why they're very lukewarm today.
Don't blame them. Blame me. That's what's important here. They're going to bring the hype, I believe. Of course, Elise ban, Kassadin ban, things look to be relatively the same. Now, I mean, if we say the same bans again, I don't see any reason why we won't just see the same pick ban phase repeated exactly.
I mean, there's always slight pivots. If you're wondering why this Kassadin ban comes out, it's just because it's a really solid counter pick on red side, but you don't want to pick it up too early on blue side. Also, whenever Kassadin's open, Talia is a champion you do not want to pick.
Yeah, he does very well into champions like Vladimir, Talia, Aurelion Sol, because he is that assassin mage that, sure, he struggles in the early game, will typically get shoved in, but when you put him in a side lane, once you hit that mid-game point, he just crushes so many of the mid-lane matchups, which is why you really don't want to allow him to be that counter pick on the
I'm going to predict the ban real quick here. I think Sivir is the final ban.
Oh.
It's almost like you've seen it before, Crepo.
And of course, additionally, focusing back in on the Kassadin, as Crepo wows us all with his predictive power. 6-1 for Senkux thus far with that pick. 7 games and some phenomenal performances. But Odo taking his time here. Rek'Sai, Talia, Taric, Tahm Kench. These power picks that have defined the game for both of these squads.
Honestly, it might be the Talia here.
Yeah, that's the big deciding factor for H2k right now as to whether or not they want to prioritize picking up that Talia or whether or not they go for the Rek'Sai. And this will be a big deciding factor as to then how Splyce respond.
Yeah, because that also means that Jankos will have the slightly weaker jungle in the early game. Like, Gragas and Rek'Sai are very close, but there's more liberty you can take with a Rek'Sai. There's like buffs you can skip, you know, paths you can alter, walls you can go over with tunnels without being punished too much. Like, yes, the Gragas can E over wall, but that means he slows down the next camp that he walks up to.
Time ticking down, waiting for the final lock-in. H2k opt for the Rek'Sai once again, but they have to be knowing they're giving up the Talia, and the question becomes, are they just going to go for the Vlad again? What is the answer to this pick right now?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And right now, H2k are trying to repeat what was not successful for them in Game 2, but perhaps they have an answer now. They've had time to think back. They must know that this is what Splyce would respond with because of how successful they were with it in Game 2. And I mean, the logical step for me would be the Echo once again, because it is still a very solid pick into both the Gnar and the Talia as well.
Give me that Aurelia.
Yes, you
yeah.
can go for the Aurelia too.
Aurelia Rek'Sai can actually destroy and murder. Gnar, I don't think it's going to come out, but I want to see H2k do something different, because inherently, I just don't like the comp they drafted last game, because they have too many losing matchups, and they have no way to really punish.
What are they going to opt for here?
That's actually smart.
Locked in.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually need to pick up the Ashe themselves, since Tahm Kench is such a big counter to these Ashe arrows themselves. However, if H2k have scrimmed a lot with Ashe and they've incorporated into their gameplay patterns, now I think they can make so much more picks. Because in the mid game where it was stale, guys, we had a 10-minute phase where nothing was happening, and then every arrow was forced to hit Mickey, who then flashed it. That's no longer true. So they are no longer doing the same thing and expecting different results. They're doing something different, and hopefully getting a different result too here on the side of H2k.
So for Splyce, they can look now to rotate their jungler and AD carry and either save the support for the last pick to make sure that it is as optimal and does as much against the entire composition of H2k as possible, or Splyce can hold on to the AD carry pick, because if they want to go for the Jhin against an Aurelia, that's not a typically safe matchup that you want to go for in the event that H2k decide to draft.
Yeah, but I think he's going to go Jhin regardless of what comes out, and I think you're right on the money that they will just save their support as 5th pick.
Yeah, most likely going to be the Taric, I think we can assume, but Trundle is, of course, an option. There are a few other champions that have been seeing play. Karma, not as powerful as she once was, but some potential to get picked up.
Ooh,
H2k mulling over their mid lane options here.
I wonder if Odoam is thinking about playing Kennen. Could actually be a pick that comes out.
Against a Gragas, though, you're going to have a really rough time, especially with the Talia in there as well, because trying to close the gap against this sort of a comp would be very
hard. But you flank. Like, you swing out in the back, and the odds of a Gragas ulti actually hitting a Kennen, like, imagine how hard it is if you're playing Gragas yourself to, where do you aim this ulti when you're playing against a Lightning Rush, Proto Belt, Flash Kennen? It it looks easy. Yeah, you can disengage, but this guy can stun you instantly. It's very unlikely because there's other picks available, but it would have been interesting to see.
A lot of opportunity to outplay here, but H2k with their last few seconds, they lock in the Vladimir. Looks like they're going to take the GP as well. Not a champion we've seen too much in the recent weeks, but one that has been rising in popularity internationally.
Odoamne played it last week too, I think at least. It wasn't the initial draft of H2k, but they definitely came to play, and it's a champion right now that can prevent that like early swap up too, you know. You can play on two sides of the map at the same time.
An incredibly rough matchup during the laning phase though. We've seen it so many times, especially over in the LCK where this Gangplank has been solo killed by Gnar. He gets zoned away from farm. He really does have a difficult time. But if he can just mitigate that rough laning phase, then he definitely hard outscales the Gnar in the late game.
And of course, once again, the big question takes us back to the jungle. Jankos has been responsible for getting Odo ahead, for setting him up for success in the top lane. Once again, a losing matchup for Odo. Is this dictating where Jankos has to go?
I would be careful we call it like big losing matchup though. If Gangplank gets to push early, and Odoamne goes for like a double camp invade other side, challenge a buff there, put a ward down, and basically splits the map left to right. They can actually control and keep Wunder locked under his tower. Remember, Jankos doesn't need to like finish his buffs. Like he can do like Gromp into enemy red buff contention, you know, with an early ward. I think we should track if H2k get any deep wards in early to figure out what Trashy is doing, and if Jankos is going to challenge him early, or go for potentially, you know, Gromp, Boob up Wolves, pass by Skullcrab, potentially take it, and instantly go top. You know, Rek'Sai is the king of 245 ganks.
Has that flexibility, has that early game pressure, and is the reason, or at least one of the reasons, they've been prioritizing this Rek'Sai repeatedly. Of course, once again, giving up to Gnar, giving up to Taliyah, and Splyce finally locking in that Braum, another powerhouse melee support. A little bit weaker than he used to be, but Splyce still clearly comfortable picking this up for Mickey.
I just find it so fascinating that we've only had very slight adaptations to the draft throughout each series. It's very much been very similar compositions throughout so far, and it's just each team adapting ever so slightly as each game comes on. They've gone back, they've identified their mistakes, and they've said, okay, we need to change this up. It's not necessarily that champion that's the problem, but it's how we're playing and how we can respond.
But a single change in an ingredient can change the taste of an entire meal. The same like with team comps, you know. If you're adding cumin instead of pepper, you know, one champion change is gonna ruin your burger. I don't even know if you put those in a burger.
You're just like listing ingredients. I respect the food metaphor.
All I do is chicken and rice, bro.
Conveniently, Master Chef Tom Kench picked up by Vander.
Yep.
He's on board with the food metaphors too. Of course, getting geared up here for Game 3. I think take this opportunity, as always, head on over to Twitter. Vote at LO eSports, hashtag SPYWin, or hashtag H2KWin. I'm sure we'll see that graphic on your screen in just a moment. But looking at this one more time.
Ah, the illustrious graphic we were looking for. Look at them hashtags. Tweet them out. LO eSports. Join the social media craze.
It's what the kids are doing.
Are they?
I don't know. I hope so, or I'm wasting my time tweeting.
We have a small pause, guys, so camera comes back to us. Good look at Sifa.
Hello. And Crepo.
And
and we're not going to... Thank you, production. The subtle BM.
It gives us more time to look at these team comps, though. There is, honestly, engaging for H2k is going to be, again, you know, mainly up to Jankos or Forgiven with the arrows, whereas Splyce for such a skirmish-heavy team comp, because usually if you want to judge whether teams are good at skirmishing, is you pick any two random champions together and you look at how they fight. So you combine Gnar and Gragas, skirmish as well. Braum plus Taliyah, you know, like you have passive procs, like there's so much things you can happen, whereas H2k, they want to go for the full-blown out team fights late game with the Vladimir and the Gangplank, but they're going to require some time and some scaling, and they've shown if they don't really get a big gold lead early, that they kind of hesitate to control the map mid to late.
Interesting, though, that the globals feel a little bit more balanced out this time around. Of course, you do have the teleport coming in from Gnar, the Weaver's Wall coming in from Taliyah, but now we have the Gangplank ult and paired with the Rek'Sai. So a little bit more opportunity for H2k to respond to map plays across, maybe stop some of the bleeding in the mid game that we saw from them in Game 2.
And something we could see from H2k, in particular with regards to that global pressure, is the rotation that we've been seeing around this 5-minute mark. Because once the Gangplank hits level 6, if Splyce try to force a push, you can just throw that Gangplank ult down in the bottom lane, and you can mitigate a lot of that pressure. So you can get a big tempo advantage, you can get that first blood tower, and then you suddenly have a lot more control of the map.
Alternatively, if somehow Rio escapes the claws of Senkux, they can make a bot lane party too, or they can counter the Taliyah roam too. Like, imagine if Taliyah wants to dive roam bot, instead of having a Taric ulti as a blocker right now, you have the GP ulti as a potential blocker. Obviously, once GP ulti goes down, Wunder can lean on the matchup in top lane, but Definitely need to keep our eyes on the on that global, and we're finally getting back into game.
Game 3, 1-1 the scoreline as both teams leave the base. No queso this time around.
Yeah, but look, they're aggressively. They realize that the main matchup that is influenceable by Jankos is going to be that top lane, so they're aggressively defending this ward. They send out Trashy as bait, and they hope that H2k kind of get greedy for the ward over the wall. Like, these little variations in level 1 starts always very fascinating for me to track, because I just remember playing in scrims, trying a new level 1 every time and finding your, like, a counter. It feels like every level 1 has a counter, and just it's like rock paper scissors.
Adaptation.
The only way you
H2k.
don't lose is if you don't play.
Well, not looking to play this time around. Splyce, read the hand H2k puts out. Are just going to back off here and pull in as we start the laning phase.
Or you become a caster, then you always make the finals.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
It's okay, Crepo. I believe in you.
I haven't lost a game at Worlds for years. Undefeated.
So am I and every member of this audience.
So both bottom lanes going to be starting off with a camp. Very valuable. It looks like that we aren't going to see any sort of invades, which we saw a lot of last week in the quarterfinals, where you saw bottom lanes just trying to prevent the other team from getting that early camp.
Braum Jin is super quick on Gromto because he arrives and he can just pop on everything. Ash gets level 2 though, which means it's very hard to contest.
Once again.
But see, this is honestly a tiny mistake, and this is really criticizing mid-picking from Vander. Because you know, nobody can walk up to an Ashe. So Ashe is actually never threatening. So there should never be a reason for Mickey to get 2 Qs in this lane on Vander, despite him being Tom Kench. Because if you walk up to Forgiven, try and Q him, he's just going to auto W in the face, and you always lose that trade.
And looking at that level 1, it looked like it unfold almost exactly as it did in game 1. Vander, of course, sidestepping the Deadly Flourish makes all of the difference, but still maybe not paying enough respect to this bottom lane.
So even though H2k are getting a push down in the bottom lane, you can see that Senkux is playing a little bit more aggressively this time around, but it's actually still falling behind in farm.
I think we might see a blue buff challenge here, because H2k have won the push in bot lane. Obviously, Senkux has a push, but Jankos right now, look at his pathing. And I think Trashy's, he read this. Trashy's reading Jankos right now, because Jankos is doing an exact mirror of what he did game 1. This is incredibly well read by Trashy, because there's no way he should have that information. This is a complete guess. If he body slams over that wall and sees that blue buff is gone, I mean, maybe it's the super standard pro play Rek'Sai path right now, where you hand off your blue to your mid laner, but see, considering Vladimir is the mid laner, doesn't really need blue buff that much, there is a realm where Jankos takes that blue buff early and Trashy finds himself out jungled completely.
And you just see him move into the jungle. He does take the wolf camp in the end, guaranteeing some vision, but Trashy with the read there guarantees a decent amount of counterplay and gets the farm in the end.
And he has the pressure on top lane now.
Yeah, he does, because he's able to pick up the scuttle grab in the river, and given that Wonder already has pressure over Odo, constantly pushing him underneath the turret, this is something that Odo always has to be mindful of, as H2k are pushing extremely aggressively in the bottom half of the map, but Jankos is doing exactly the same thing. Posturing around this bottom lane, something that Splyce's bot always have to be careful of.
Huge showing of confidence from H2k on the bottom side. They know they've got Jankos to back them up if they need it. And the top lane matchup, as you mentioned, finally in favor of Wonder here in the early game. No pressure needed.
Alright, Jankos must have told his team though that he's taking his jungle far too easily, and Trashy has to be on the left side. That's why Odoamne really wants to aggressively deny this wave from going in, and he also has that ward behind him, because he's at risk of getting dove.
Taking a bit of poke here in the mid lane. Got to keep your eyes on Jankos once again, though.
Global Hawkshot came out as well. They're trying to spot Trashy and see if he's putting any gank paths out, if he's trying to challenge the top lane matchup. But so far, everybody went even.
Very even so far in the early game. And what we're likely going to be seeing is a little bit more farm focused, because remember that H2k do have a very scaling composition. They don't necessarily have to force big objectives in the early game. As long as they can get through a laning phase relatively unscathed, then this is an advantage for H2k. Splyce have a similar position, but they want to try and build more of an advantage in the top lane, because they have the Gnar going up against the Gangplank. This is where Trashy should really look to put his focus. And so if we're going to see any aggression in the early game, that's likely where we'll see it.
Yeah. Raptor check from Jankos, doesn't spot it. He is revealed though, so now Wunder knows it's Rek'Sai in the jungle. The win condition for Splyce is honestly a 5-man party in bot lane after Gangplank abilities use. Senkux walking away here, not panicking at all. Good counterplay too.
Nice showing coming in from Senkux in the mid lane, but things still relatively calm in this early game.
That was actually really patient from Senkux, because what Jankos was doing, it was a bit of a mind game between both Senkux and Jankos. Jankos is walking up, he's saying, I could flash for you, I can flash for you, and Psychos is just like, go on then, flash for me. I'm calling it. Unfortunately, he calls him out, and he's able to just walk away without burning any summer spells, and as Crepper mentioned, gets a really good trade back as well, so really good response there from Senka.
Splyce much more at ease in this game 3 of the series rather than game 1. Trashy right now shifting his focus to the bottom side of the map. He just got Wunder a great start in the matchup. It isn't as like black and white hard counter matchup to Gnar in my opinion, because these guys are comfortably going even CS. Yes, there's the early pressure. The breaking point is a level 3 dive, but Odoamne either played around it or Wunder and Trashy forgot or failed to pull the trigger. Good little devour here. Region W. Right now, Splyce are putting pressure on bot side. If they can get the push in and threaten potential dive, that could be one of their winning conditions.
Interesting that we look at those win conditions, because H2k seem like they can be content having a relatively passive early game. Got this gangplank steadily scaling up and going to continue to be a bigger and bigger threat.
Now this was something that you mentioned in game 1, Crepper, where you just have Senkuk sit in the fog of war, and because of the ward that was entering the river for H2k, they spotted Senkuk's roaming down, and that's why you saw the immediate hawk shot from Forgiven saying, all right, let's just track Senkuk, see what he's trying to force down in the bottom.
And Forgiven having a pretty powerful laning phase as well. You can see him running out of mana, but on the opposite side, Hobby and Mickey running out of health to a certain degree, but it's rinse and repeat in the mid lane. Senkux is knocked up. Flash back to safety, and Jankos continues to lay down the pressure, but there's a party in the bot lane. Vander, 3 stacks in the concussive blows, is going to make it out, but the GP ult is coming in. Forgiven no mana to keep this chase going, but Vander not deterred. Flash out from Mickey. Ryu now on the back lines. Are they going to look for the dive? Jankos is here as well. Waiting for it. Not going to happen. Backing off on the side of H2k. Bated breath from both teams.
Yeah, very tense moment for a while, and it all started with the Jankos gank in the mid lane, forcing Senkuk's back. He can't ulti to join the party. They're putting pressure here, but that's a good base timing. No chip damage here. Notice how these bot lanes don't care about taking half the tower. It only counts if you can take the entire thing, so they're just going to base right now. And let's see, are there any switching shenanigans going to come out? Probably not.
Kabi and Mickey headed back to the bottom lane. Forgiven moving out as well.
On curve for Forgiven. Being Ashe and basing on 70 CS is just so ideal. He relieves the base with 30 gold after buying a single biscuit, which meant he like 100 gold to spare after getting pickaxe and BF sword. That is just the perfect back timing for Forgiven.
Excellent efficiency coming in. BF sword, pickaxe, a massive amount of damage. Serrated Dirk, the armor penetration's nice, but not going to balance out that difference.
You know when you eat a really good cheeseburger? That was the face Creppo just made when he saw the item efficiency coming out from Forgiven. That's how happy this sort of efficiency makes him.
How do you know how I look like when I eat a good cheeseburger?
To be fair, he's not wrong. I saw you eat a good cheeseburger, JC. He's like, right, that is the...
It was a good cheeseburger.
Phew. Sometimes I miss America. The cheeseburgers. Continuing to trade.
Queso level 1 at least here. Burger follows. Ooh, duel in top lane. Trashy's not moving. He got revealed. Love that new, well, not new, but like the fact that sweepers actually show you what's in the brush.
Little silhouettes.
Yep. Big silhouettes in the case of Gragas.
Rather large silhouette. Big bone silhouette. I think we can
just
safely
say. Now, Wunder taking a lot of damage in the top lane is unfortunately eating more barrels than I think he should typically want to do during the lane phase. But things very slow, very similar to what we saw in game 2. Jankos not quite as bloodthirsty as he was in game 1, not finding those sort of opportunities, but I think that Splyce very quickly learned how aggressive Jankos can be.
Of course, both TPs up for the top laners, the GP ult though as well.
And that's going to influence how this game's going to evolve here, because it's always timid once TPs are down, because nothing really can happen if you play carefully. But remember, a couple of flashes were burned earlier. We're getting later in the game where there's more damage ramping up here, and we talk about Forgiving, getting more items. A good cannon barrage, potentially TP. Once these teams start really identifying objectives like the first turret, could start, you know, a little bit of a skirmish. Remember, Splyce in lower numbers, they kind of win out throughout the majority of the game, but in a full-blown team fight, that's where H2k's forte is.
Really have a lot of power on this lineup. The Gangplank Vlad just continue to get more terrifying as the game moves forward. The passive play will eventually benefit H2k here, but Jankos maybe looking to make a play of his own. Is spotted out here.
So something that is actually really interesting about Talia in particular is if you're under a bit of pressure, you want to make sure that you have as many of these worked grounds as far back as possible because they give you bonus movement speed. So every time Ryu or Jankos tries to set up a gank in the mid, you actually have that additional escape ready just to get out of any dangerous situation. So that was a part of the reason as to why early on Senkux was able to avoid that initial gank that Jankos set up, and is part of the reason as to why Jankos is struggling to find another opportunity because there's no hard CC in the favor of Ryu. It's all on Jankos landing that knockup, and because you get that extra bit of movement speed further back near the turret, it means that you're a little bit safer in lane.
Yeah, and this pressure that Wunder has on top really isn't amounting to anything. Top lane turret is still 100% HP, I feel. Maybe like 95 or something, but it hasn't been chipped down very much. So Odoam is just completely farming on the tower, and the main focus point here seems to be the river. Arrow comes out.
Oh, flash out from Trashy. He's not going to risk that one. Backs away, walks away with his life, but gives it up.
So pleasant to see games where people actually respect ultimates, you know, like Arrow, Tempered Fate, and actually flash before it hits them. They don't get hit and then have like 2 seconds of contemplation, whether they should have flashed. Perhaps they should flash now.
So while they're stunned, they pull out a book.
Yeah.
Should I have flashed in this situation?
The answer is always yes.
But then could you not mind game them? You could just blindly throw out arrows. They're going to flash, and then, hey, you just trade cooldown.
You can still judge, you know? You can treat it like a spear. A bigger spear. You just can't dodge
a
it.
really big, cold spear.
So if they have a mouse, they should be able to dodge it. I think that one they need a keyboard for flash.
Yeah.
Guess it depends on the bindings.
So now we can actually see a roam coming out from Senkux too. Remember, this was something they couldn't set up in game 2, but now they're trying to set up in game 3.
Wolf Spirit going to spot them out. Maybe looking to take the blue buff instead. Jankos is here to contest, but the pressure is greatly in favor of Wunder. He hops over, throws down a bit of damage.
Swap comes out from H2k.
On the edge of the tower aggro, in comes the Tahm Kench. H2k looking for the turn. Wunder slowed down. Tahm Kench goes forward. The exhaust comes out as well. Moving in. Here comes the knockup. Wunder set to fall. Great first blood coming in from H2k.
Really good use of the Tahm Kench ult to set up that play for H2k. They punish Wunder for overextending, and they get themselves first blood.
There's so many layers to honestly tell you how good of a play from H2k that was. Now, Jankos has Devour available from Vander, so he's fine. Splyce learning about how annoying Tahm Kench is. That move from Splyce was in the making for such a long time. Aggressive, winning top laner, check. Global ultimate mid, jungle access top because you're pushing. All leads to Oruwamne being dove and destroyed in the top lane. So H2k, they predict this, or they just make sure that that doesn't happen, and they send their laners to the top lane. Look at this. This dive is like, Splyce is so happy that they're going to pull this off, and then suddenly they see Tahm Kench ultimate being cast. Wunder has to flash out, but then Vander flashes afterward, and despite the disengage, another tunnel, you know, layers of engage coming out. Super well played from the Splyce, from the H2k team here.
And we talked about the risk of getting this Gangplank ahead during Champion Select, and now that he has already completed his Trinity Force 13 minutes into the game, this is monumental for H2k, setting up that 1-2-1 that they're going to want later on into the game, and it also just significantly increases their teamfight prowess, so they can look to force objectives like the Dragon and like the Rift Herald, should they want to go for them.
Yeah, but still no first tower down, and that is usually the biggest swing in these games. A lot of tension around potentially defending, rotating, taking that turret down. Trashy and Jankos. Feels like they meet in the river every 30 seconds to a minute or so. They must really miss each other.
Trading blow for blow here, matching each other's pressure, going for the occasional hug. It's very even. Started out like such a Jankos-dominated matchup, but Trash has been bringing it back. Getting a little bit better game after game, reading his opponent's plays.
Fan vote slightly in favor of H2k. I feel like we have seen it swing back and forth throughout the day, but I know that the analyst desk was certainly in favor of H2k, and after a start like this, things are looking promising, but it's still difficult to confirm that they will be able to close things out. With a more scaling composition, you could argue then Splyce, definitely in their favor right now, working well towards those mid-game power spikes that they're so well known.
Yeah, but they need to find a good skirmish here. Jankos doing a really good job revealing Trashy constantly, so he can't surprise anybody. And chip damage on turret. There is teleport though on Wunder, who has a rage bar about like 70% here, so no deep wards, just that ward here in the lone Kaibush.
Be all available potentially for the dive, and you can see Splyce looking to control their side of the map, looking to control everything. 3 pink wards in those inventories.
I think they're going to swap the map here. Splyce, they should probably already going to return to top lane. This is where you usually should just see them return to bot, because they may just lose the turret.
Splyce are so determined not to give up this first blood gold tower. We saw it in game 1, and right now they're just trying to mitigate the pressure coming out from Forgiven and Vander. But bear in mind, Wonder's still exerting pressure himself at the bottom as Senkux comes from a row.
Weaver's wall, Odo. It's only going to be the 1v1 though. Wonder zoned out, and that means nothing going to come from it in the end.
Honestly, a bad wall by Senkux. Should have gotten more of that. Somehow though, they're with aggression on bottom and top lane at the same time.
Curtain call. H2k not in a position to respond.
That's because Ryu's not involved at all. He was mid pushing in, so he is the Lone Ranger to solve this. Now Wunder is trying to finish his turret because Senkux had to leave. Honestly, this was Splyce. These plays had more potential than what they gained. They were nice plays, nice tries, but fumbled, at least on the bottom side of the map. They could have gotten more with Senkux and Trashy. Imagine as well if Kabe and Mickey ran down to join that play. That would have been first brick there because Trashy could just use Q and R. Clear that wave.
Potentially a missed opportunity. Splyce fighting the fight on multiple fronts. Maybe not advised at this point of the game, especially when they have so much pick potential with this Jhin. Now backing off and Ryu taking control of the mid lane.
Certainly do. Ryu doing what he can to exert pressure, given that Senkux is looking to roam around the map as much as he can. And now that Ryu has completed that Spirit Visage, Senkux is struggling a little bit to trade back and forth. And notice that Ryu is weaving his way in through the minions, making it actually very difficult for Senkux to trade back with him every time Ryu walks up aggressively. Really good ability to play around the cooldowns of Senkux, who has to prioritize on either clearing the waves or trading back with Ryu.
And Senkux is so desperately relying on that blue buff, so much so that Trashy is pulled to the bottom side of the map to hand over that blue buff, which gives H2k control over the top side of the map. And finally, first turret goes down. H2k with a noticeably swinging gold.
You can see that massive spike for Forgiven, 650 gold just to the Ashe. The Ashe who already got the first perfect back timing, now approaching the second item. Runan's Hurricane well on the way.
He's 1100 gold up over his lane opponent. 20 CS and then the turret gold.
Potentially.
Odo doesn't have his flash available. That was put early on from Senkux, and now they're going for the
Wonder
dive.
goes in, Wallop goes down. You're not Echo, not enough fancy footwork left. Trashy comes in to back him up. Wonder, one more boulder to close it out.
Yeah, this is a mistake we've seen sometimes from Odo on it. I need to see what the reaction here is from H2k is though as they commit to mid here. Oh, an extra turret goes down and maybe
Arrow connects, looking for more. Mickey trying to get the disengage. Is anyone going to drop? Jhin with the curtain call. Is this the turn? Yanko's in trouble. 2 stacks on him. Bullets looking to hit. Vander body blocking what he can. Trashy from behind, looking to make it more, but have they overcommitted? Forgiven now running through the team. No one is hitting the 80 carry, and he's going to make sure they get a response.
So many missed abilities from Senkux. He just couldn't get the damage out, but he also doesn't have the cleanse, which means that if you try to defend these turrets, it makes it so easy for Forgiven to set up that play. Fortunately for Senkux, Mickey was there to provide support, but we're going to first see a dive in the bottom lane.
Yeah, it all starts with Odo honestly being overextending here on the bottom. He does the right thing, which is ulting the minion wave to slow down the turret push. H2k still use the momentum. Look where Jhin is on the map and Braum right now. You can't afford to be hugging the ruins of a dead tower when you're committing 2 members to the bot lane. You always need to make sure that you have bot lane defense or mid lane defense when you go for these roam plays. H2k, they truly capitalize on that play. You see a good flank here from Yankos, from Trashy rather, but he doesn't die or doesn't get a kill on the Yankos respectively, and then Senkux doesn't get access to the fight. Just good kiting from H2k.
The thing about Trashy is he's actually decided to go for the Runic Echoes build, which means that you're so much squishier on that Gragas early on. You think that you're this big, beefy tank, but when you dive into 4 members that all suddenly turn their attention on towards you, especially when you've got an exhaust on your face too, it just means that it's a very easy pickup kill for H2k, who also get themselves a turret. So what looked like a really promising play from Splyce in the bottom lane results in an overall net gain for H2k.
Probably has done a lot of work here with his team. Just putting in like different ways to get access to that first tower, you know, swapping up the lanes, preventing a dive himself. H2k, superior macro in the early game.
Well, it feels like a lot of teams have a single page. H2k bringing an entire playbook to the table. And Splyce, they're making moves to get back, but you can see how it has not counted much for anything. 2 towers for H2k, the tower first blood, a 3k gold lead backing them up, and Senkux now just has to follow the pressure, has to hold on to what he can, and he does not look very safe under this tower.
Now we still have Wunder though, approaching his 2-item spike. That's where Nara is strongest and where you can still bully Odoamne, because Odoamne is still dropped in that play. So that is one of the things that Splyce are looking at to get an advantage from, the pressure from Wunder into Odoamne.
Now pulling back H2k, enough wave clear, stalling out any pressure that Splyce can put down, and Splyce having to play safe. They had a tower there to protect them, but Senkux, it's these 3 members on the bottom sides. He starts to run for the hills. He knows better than to stick around.
Interesting that Jankos actually decided to rush the Aegis in this matchup, getting a bit more magic resistance to deal with Trashy and Senkox. That could be in part due to the fact that Trashy has decided to go for more aggressive in his AP itemization, but the fact that he has decided to rush that over Vander, just getting it later on into the game, is quite an interesting adaptation that we're seeing here from Yang.
Yeah, they just need the Aegis up early, and honestly, his role this game is a tank. He didn't get any kills early, so he couldn't snowball. He doesn't need to deal all the damage, because when you have GP, Vladimir, and Ashe, all they need is peel for them, rather than the jungler trying to do the damage themselves.
An adaptation around the team comp coming in from Jankos.
Notice how H2k isn't as worried when they go for Dragon, and they don't worry about Splyce kind of rushing mid down for an objective trade. It's because they have Cannon Barrage available. That is always something, when you look at the map, you're like, oh yeah, they're going to trade turret for Dragon. Nope, never mind, Cannon Barrage. However, Trashy showing up here.
Could be a rinse and repeat on the dive.
Jankos is close. Look at him lurking around the corner on your
See the
minimap.
tremor sense ticking on the feet of Gragas. They know Trashy's there.
Forgiven was ready to join that party with an arrow too.
And just really smart play from H2k, because that ward was there well in advance. They felt that this pressure was going to come out from Splyce. That gank from Trashy was going to be up into the top lane to try and net Wonder some kind of advantage so they could get themselves an extra tier 1 turret. H2k read the play. Jankos is already in a position to respond, and this is just very smart response from H2k overall. Now, they are setting up for the 1-3-1. You can already see that Forgiven and Vander have been spending a lot of time in the mid lane, and Ryu has been moved down to this bottom. He has the item advantage, he has the Ryle's completed, and he is a full item above Senkox, which is really making life difficult for the mid laner of Splyce. Pressure is going in the favor of Odo in the top half of the map, and H2k are just setting themselves up to either take the Cloud Drake or maybe even set up for a play around that.
They already got that turret in the bottom lane while we were discussing this, so clearly the strength that Ryu has bringing to the table is just working out very well from the overall, but now with the bottom lane tower down, the map opened up, as you mentioned, Prepper, with all these tier 1s down, starting to set their sights around this barren area. Splyce are making moves in the mid lane.
Yeah, really slow mid game right now. Tier 1s have fallen, but both teams are respective. Each other's aggressive moves, failure to really commit. Trying to gank now. Jankos finds Wunder. Cancel jump actually.
Knock up. May have to be careful. That's so much damage. Ryu hitting like a truck. Baron's gonna back him up. All-star assist coming in from the Purple Worm to close that one out.
Loving the buddy system from H2k, asking the Baron for a bit of help, and he is there to assist. One of the great things about this Wonder build is that sure, it has a lot of damage, but it means that you are so squishy. You're only building HP, you have no magic resistance, and that results in Ryu getting so much damage down. When
look
you
at the map
combine that with
pressure.
Jankos, it is just so easy to get that kill down onto Wonder.
Yeah, definitely agree there. Easy kill, but look at the map pressure that's ensuing from him. Senkox forced to clean up top. It means Odoalna is drawing one to the bottom, but they're playing with Wunder down. He gets turret down, so he should be able to be somewhat okay here with Flash.
Back, flash out, curtain call, misses another shot, gets the speed boost off the barrel.
Baron right now.
This is absolutely everything that H2k wanted. They get the tier 2 in the bottom. Gangplank makes it out safe. It's only Mickey and Senkox there to save the day. Short of disaster, no! H2k are gonna get the Baron. Nothing Splyce can do. Wonder is on the way in. Deadly Flourish going to go wide, and they're maybe looking for more here, but Ryu discouraging any further aggression. They have to give up Vander, but Splyce, a weak prize compared to the strength of the Baron.
And this is all a snowball. Top laner dies, which means bot lane can't be held. You know, enemy top laner pushes, so they send in the jungler and the AD carry, and H2k read that as a window of opportunity to just start the Baron. There's no 50-50 going on because the smite's on the other side of the map here. Odoalna doing a fantastic job distracting Trashy and still surviving somehow. So H2k really toying with Splyce on the map here on the back of a single pickoff.
Just so many impressive map movements. Now that they have the Baron, their win conditions become so much easier because they can go back to this 1-3-1 that we talked about during Champions. Like, this Gangplank is about to complete his third item. He doesn't need boots because he's just doing so much damage. You have the Vladimir, who is so much further ahead than the Talia, who's really going to struggle against these Baron-empowered minions, and you have the Ashe Arrow to force these fights whenever you bleed.
Yeah, this is where Splyce is kind of hoping to nip it in the bud. Just hit them in the setup. Actually hoping he wasn't revealed there. Because if you allow the 1-3-1 to come to fruition, you're always going to lose out if H2k playing clean. So you need to hit them in the setup, make a pick somehow.
And when we looked at these teams, we talked about skirmishing, the necessity of skirmishing for Splyce. But as H2k split up the map with their individual solo laners looking so strong, is that even an option for Splyce anymore? Nope. Nope. Things looking grim, but Trashy maybe hoping to get a play out here. Splyce move up to defend the mid lane tower. Waiting on the creep wave, hoping that they can hold on to this one. Baron buff ticking down still. Decent amount of time left, nearly 2 minutes. Odo sets pressure on the top side.
Just to go back to your point, C, for about looking for these skirmishes, one of the biggest issues that Splyce are dealing with right now is the fact that Jankos is just doing a great job of controlling this top half of the map. Splyce can't move away because of all three waves pushing towards him, and here comes out the arrow onto Trashy.
Oh, Gangplank all coming in. They're just zoning them off the tier 2 tower.
Different kind of zoning arrow. The one that actually hits. And that rotation into top lane is possible. Wunder's doing his best to keeping that wave out. We see Tom Kenshalty kind of get preempted by a minor animation. Still about 7 creeps there though. Trashy's in base, so H2k with 2 towers, they should be happy, but Splyce is aggressively defending at least.
Backing off, not wanting to give anything up on the side of H2k. Happy to take these small advantages, but Senkuk's maybe looking for a bit more. Send them against the wall. Out comes the curtain call. Shots connecting.
I think it's a bit too much here. I don't think Splyce is going to find much.
Hop away. Now H2k maybe looking for the turn. Ryu ready. Goes in. Hemoplate goes down. They're looking for the turn. Mickey looks to disengage. He gets a few members. Ryu on the front lines. Dustblade ticking. Both teams biting at each other, looking for the fight.
Unfortunately for Wunder, his ultimate ran out just as he was getting in range of H2k to force that fight, but the moment his Mega Gnar was about to run out, that is when Splyce must choose to disengage. Fortunately enough for them, H2k don't really have the lockdown, don't really have the damage because Ash's arrow is on cooldown. The Gangplank ultimate isn't available, so Splyce are able to get away from their lives, and they do keep this tier 2 target alive.
And they took down some couple summoners that are very key to H2k's approach to fights here. See Jankos and Trashy duel over Rad buff. Jankos takes it home, but flashing goes down on Ryu, and Flash being down on Jankos makes it so that it's much more difficult for H2k to convincingly win fights. We saw the flash in from Ryu in the top side there, but he failed to pull instantly, kind of haphazardly pulled afterwards to not great effect. So this means Splyce actually has an option of taking more dominance in the next team fight.
Definitely have a lot of strong team fighting tools at their disposal. Just cooldowns down, as you mentioned. Things maybe looking a little bit easier, but the gold lead continuing to grow for H2k. 6k in their advantage. But this has been a story of towers and map movement, not a story of kills. Only 3-2 as far as the kills are concerned.
It does concern me a little bit how squishy Trashy actually is. If you have a look at his magic resistance, he's only sitting on about 87 right now, which is remarkably low for this late into the game, especially with that Vladimir being so powerful.
It's because he's likely looking at his role within teamfights and his body slam flash on either Odoamne or Forgiven and put them on 30%, so as they fly into the team, they just get popped. Likely
Arrow connects, looking for the knockup. Could this start the fight? Yanko's potentially in trouble. Cannon barrage onto multiple members, and Ryu is in.
Ryu's out.
Free to pressure.
Cobb is out for sure.
Ooh, that's a low health bar. That's not where you want to be.
Just a scratch. It's just gonna walk it off.
This is about the scratch.
Kabi looking to bite some legs off. Ready. H2k move on to the top side, of course. Still in control of this jungle. Wunder hoping to get something back, but Splyce have to be happy they didn't lose anything in that exchange of abilities. Definitely came out on top, but the flash burn for Kabi could cost them so much.
H2k didn't really gain that much off the Baron. They did get the tier 2 in the mid lane, but other than that, there's no real significant gains, which is going to further solidify their gold lead. I mean, it's a pretty solid gold lead, but as the game progresses, that gap is going to slowly start to close, and it's going to mean less and less for Splyce.
Yeah, they had 1100 gold Baron power play. If it was accurate, it was in the top right corner of your screen, which is weird because the Baron power play starts at 1500.
So they actually lost gold.
I had 2 giggling stats coordinators in my ear. It was accurate.
Of course, we'll get another shot at the Baron playoff power play. Maybe H2k looking to make it a little bit bigger this time around if they can secure it. Just 1 minute and 15 out, and the difference in itemization in the bottom lane is pretty astounding. You can see Forgiven, massive lead here.
We have to give props to Forgiven here and an angry fan. Lashing out, guys, for giving us up over 2,500 gold over his direct lane opponent. And most importantly, he has 27 CS up over his opponent. And by all laws that dictate the game of League of Legends, which means if you have more CS, you are a better player. So Forgiven dominating the hashtag Kaba crew, we call him.
The laws of League of Legends. Team Liquid will get 4th. Forgiven will win in CS. SKT will somehow make it to Worlds again.
Except in season 4.
That's true.
And Liquid are already 6th or 5th.
Well, they give Forfing Gauntlet. Come on, mate.
Oh, yeah, of course.
There's another competition added at the end of the year right now.
It's the secret. We just have enough competitions that eventually, eventually Liquid will end up in 4th.
You could average it out, give them second, and then because of the 2, they get 4.
That's stretching it, bro. Alright, what does Splyce need to do right now? How do they crawl out of this hole? It used to be Wunder beating Oduamne in 1v1, but scaling Gangplank, have fun with that. So he's peeled off. He pushed in bot though. You see Yanko is kind of buddying up with Oduamne. They actually want to take down Wunder themselves. So it leaves the map to Splyce, but they obviously don't know where Yankas is himself, so unless he reveals, which he does now, it may use that to force a 4v3 top side of the map. You could see Weaver's Wall come out here and have a mid engage, but obviously they run into Cannon Barrage and potentially Yankas joining, so that explains the hesitation on the side of Splyce.
You have to be careful as well of the fact that you have no flash on the Jhin. Senkux will have his flash available in the next few seconds, but with him up in the top half of the map, it's going to take him a little while. He does have the ultimate to join the rest of his team as well, should they force a play. Baron is now live. The Cloud Drake is going to be spawning in about 2 minutes' time. Both objectives that either team could look to set up for, and right now H2k with mid control have been able to set up a fair amount of vision. All they need to do now is allow Oduamne back in the bottom lane. Wave is already pushing, so they've decided to send him up mid, so they don't have to expend the teleport. And if Wunder decides to go bottom lane, they just have a number of options where H2k can force it.
Oh, Gangplank, Cannon Barrage comes in. Kabe in the backline is vulnerable. Ryu goes forward. Down goes Kabe. Vander looks for a snack. It's going to be Mickey. 1 shot, 1 kill coming in from Oduamne. Splyce looking to throw down a little bit of poke in return, but they lost so much there.
Kabe not enjoying his life right now. No flash. Thinks he's safe in the mid lane. Cannon Barrage into flash knockup with follow-up. Denied access.
No Baron for 6 seconds.
This is actually a really smart play from Senkux because he's just buying time for the rest of his team to join in. They just need to stall out this Baron as long as they can until the rest of their team comes in.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 5-member strong H2k, I don't know how valuable that's going to be.
They're going to need some kind of combo here. Gnar building up that Rage Bar, throwing down the Unraveled Earth. They're looking for something, but what are they going to be able to get? Mega Gnar comes in. Ryu looking to zone out with the Chemo Plague. Baron's health counting down.
It's a 50-50. Trashy has Smite here. Wunder going in.
Wunder goes in. Wunder goes out. Knocked out by the GP. So much damage as Senkux starts to run for the hills. Has to flash away from the arrow. Baron doesn't reset. Doesn't look like it. Drops to H2k.
Splyce struggle to find the window of opportunity to take away that Baron, and H2k solidify their goal lead. And now, oh no!
Just enough magic resist there to survive, courtesy of the Hex Drinker. Close call there. Not even going to get the consolation prize on the side of Splyce.
Cheeky little attempt there from Senkux. The setup was okay from Splyce. They stalled, I think, as best as they could, keeping attention away from the jungle, which was important. But look right here, Kabe. You want the cannon creep? He wants the range CS. That's honestly too deep. That is far too greedy. As silly as it sounds, overextending that far for range CS in the mid game when you don't know where Jankos is, or rather when you know that he's actually there because he was spotted in the river, is a mistake. It is one hard to really criticize somebody for, but you know, with a lineup that strong, and maybe Kabe is like, he got addicted to the Tahm Kench, you know. First game it's nice, you know, you don't play too careless, but then game 2 you go a little more. You start playing reckless. Game 3 you start playing inside the enemy team because you know you have Devour to save you. But then he realizes without his buddy Tahm Kench, life just isn't that great anymore. And then he died.
I can't think of anywhere appropriate to take that
Nope.
with regards to the Tahm
Frogs
Kench
make
ability.
the world better. That's what Creflo actually is trying to say.
Yeah, there you go.
But Wunder right now taking a lot of damage from Odo. 18 to 16.
frog? Frog.
Frog, yeah.
Catfish.
Ah, he's a frog. I've decided to use a frog because only a frog would be big enough to fit you in a team.
I thought it was a toad.
All right.
We're not getting into this debate.
This is... There's a team with Baron, gentlemen. There's a siege going on.
And a sexy Baron power play, 3,000 gold, and accurate.
Pretty good. Mickey not looking quite so comfortable. Weaver's Wall comes out. In goes the Jhin ultimate. They may be looking for more. That's the setup. A Wombo combo comes in. What are they going to be able to get out of it, though? Vander picks up the GP, happy to give him a way out. The wall is finally gone. They're backing out. Splyce, have they overextended? Ryu goes in, Ryu goes out. Neither team picking up anything.
Imagine if Wunder had Mega Gnar available. I think H2k just learned a valuable lesson about sieging 5-man in a single lane against Talia, because that would have been nasty if Mega Gnar was available. Luckily for them, it wasn't. So But they get away unscathed. Really good devour timing from Vander.
I feel like that's something we've said a lot about Vander, that he's just missed out on that Mega Gnar opportunity. You could argue that it's all planned from H2k. They're actually playing around that Mega Gnar so efficiently that it's actually enabling them to get these big objectives. And now H2k, with the return of Tahm Kench and with so many ultimates on cooldown, are looking to force this inhibitor.
Clearly stronger in the stats department, a 12k gold lead, making that quite apparent. Baron power play continues to grow, but they need this inhibitor to make a dent in the base. And Splyce looks like they're going to have to give it up. Senkuk's not quite so eager. Wonder and Trashy taking far too much damage. Cask available for Trashy, maybe looking for the ultimate there. Unraveled Earth does a decent amount, knocks them back into the team, but is this what they want? Trashy taking a decent amount from the Ashe. Damage coming out, but H2k securing the inhibitor, and they're going to walk away without losing a single member.
Yeah, Splyce, they knew they had to yield, but they try to stretch it as much as they can to just prevent H2k from taking more, honestly. It is stopping the bleeding, cauterizing the wound. I don't think it's enough right now. Splyce, 12k down. We saw H2k in game 1 take it slow, but still steady enough to have a somewhat convincing victory. Splyce have shown moments where maybe, if only they could bring it back, but they're still so far down.
I'm a little bit surprised that H2k decided to group up in one lane rather than set up for the 1v1, because they had the Baron available to them. They have really strong side laners that, in all honesty, Splyce just cannot duel at this point in the game, especially when you just look at the level differential between both mid and top. And the fact that H2k grouped up really did delay them being able to take the turret, but look at this
Wonder caught out, knocked out. Odo now on a killing spree.
And that just shouldn't happen. This late into the game, Wonder shouldn't be that overextended. He's going to give away a free kill. Now Ryu's looking for more.
Hungry for blood. In comes the curtain call. He's just going to pull out here. Splyce, are they going to look for more?
That's 2 flashes blown for no kills here, so that's a bit of positivity for the Splyce team. Ryu just short of finishing that kill with his flash combo. And right now, it's still 5v4. Wonder has teleport, but it's still 30 entire seconds before he spawns. And there's pressure on all 3 lanes at once. Super minions in one. A trio of H2k top lane Trinity members. The other one, Tower Falls.
Goes in. Wonder still not alive. No opportunity to set up the combo there. It's just Splyce trying to buy time, trying to stop the bleeding, as you said. But Senkuk's the one who looks to be bleeding out. So much damage goes down. Trashy goes in, looking to knock Odo back. Odo, will he drop? Yes, shut down. Mickey picking it up with the ultimate there. Now Splyce looking to turn this in their favor.
Wonder is spawning right now. No rage, but has teleport. Bottom left, he's teleporting behind the H2k crew.
Looking for the flank. Duskblade pops, but Jankos is not low enough. Wonder, no Mega Gnar quite yet, but he's got enough tankiness to live this out. Snare goes down. Vander waiting for an opportunity to eat them up. Wonder, he's going to drop anyway. No. Ult coming in, he's going to come back, he's going to be Mega Gnar. Is he ready to make the play? Throws down the wall, not going to connect. Ult from Forgiven down the mid lane. Who is going to turn this back?
Vander saved that fight here. Beautiful Devour on Ryu. He was 20% HP, but guess what? He's Vladimir. JK, he's 50% right now. And right now, Splyce is on the back foot because this inhibitor under siege. Nexus Tower fell. Last one's half HP.
And H2k can just immediately return to the inhibitor. They're able to stave off the re-engage coming out from Splyce. And it is once again H2k coming out with the advantage. 2 inhibitors down as we start to look at this fight. You can see what went wrong.
Yeah, just this is how it all started with Odoamne going down, the shutdown, then 5 seconds left on the teleport. Ryu gets gobbled up, denied the Braum passive again. Oh, so close for that inhibitor to die. Jankos walks in. Oh,
10 HP is how much health that inhibitor
yeah,
had.
he gets sucked in. Look, now Forgiven, instant cleanse flash here to just get away. Yeah, use the QSS route and no cleanse. Wonder wants his Mega Gnar, but he gets a bit too much rage, overloads. And Ryu, like, the amount of sustain here combined with the Tahm Kench is honestly disgusting.
And just keep your eye on Vander, because not only did he body block the Deadly Flourish that was going to hit Forgiven, he then consumes Ryu just as he is about to fall down. Vander has had a phenomenal performance throughout this series, and he just continues to perform in Game 3.
Clearly, you can see the strength of Tahm Kench using the hands of both Mickey and Vander, and it just changes the way you play the game. And for H2k, things are looking relatively easy. A 13k gold lead backing them up. The next dragon will be the Elder, the Baron spawning in seconds. And they're in absolute control of the map right now as Splyce is just forced onto the back foot.
If you're H2k right now, you just put Deep Vision in Splyce's jungle and you just go immediately for the Baron. You can keep Odoamne in the bottom half of the map. He has his ultimate up, he has the teleport, and he can easily set up for a flank against Splyce.
Yeah, but he's not going to. He's just going to keep pushing. Actually just overextends. I think this is where H2k doesn't push the button, but they somehow go in.
Curtain call comes out, it's a little bit wide. Yanko's knocked back. Are they going to be able to grab anything? They get one. Going down. Trashy going to drop. What else are they looking for? Odo is on the flank. Wonder hops out. Will he make it to safety? Disengage comes in from Mickey. Deadly Flourish goes wide. But Odo Wamne is on the front lines. One shot onto Wonder, but he's too tanky. Senkuk's exhausted. Throwing back the threaded volley. Is going to be able to make it back. Pushes Forgiven Evander towards the Baron pit and keeps his life.
Actually, I'm really surprised they went for that play. Like, the 100% win-win play is just to let Odo Wamne push and let the base get destroyed. And once Splyce show up in their own base, we take Baron, but somehow H2k felt comfortable just leaning on the gold lead to speed things up here. Jankos lost his G8 though, an entire ordeal, but they pick up the Baron. They have a large lead and they're looking to close out.
Moving on to the bottom side, the last thing that's left on the menu if they want to break those inhibitors. As we look at this fight, you can see raw power from H2k.
You can look on the mini-map. I mean, the Gangplank ultimate is enough because they're able to get the kill done onto Trashy. And at this point, you can just disengage from the fight because Gangplank can just continue pushing on. But H2k want more. With the teleport from Ryu in, they continue on with the engagement. They think they can get more kills. And perhaps they feel that with 2 inhibitors down, if they can get enough kills here, they can just go straight for the end game. But instead, there's enough disengage on the side of Splyce that they can't net themselves anything.
I mean, H2k can't make a bad play at this point. Like, both those plays are fine. It would have just been a cleaner victory if Odo Wamne pushes down in the bottom lane. And the only situation where that matters is if in game 4 of this series, the end game is closer. But like with 12,000 gold lead, there is no wrong button to push.
And continuing to grow, not even 12,000 anymore, 14,000. Double Cloud Drakes, meaning they can be in any lane at any time. And for Splyce, the pressure is mounting. They've got some inhibitors up. It should be easier to defend now. The minions, at least, the players, continue to be a massive threat.
Just relentless pressure coming out in the bottom lane. Problem for H2k, or slight problem, is there's actually a pretty big minion wave in the top half of the map that is preventing H2k from getting the ideal siege, but now they're just going to force it down. Here comes the wall.
Reverse wall, Yanko's knocked back, no GA, but Ryu looking for a flank into the back line. They've set him up perfectly. He's in the middle of everything. That's massive damage. Double kill for the Gangplank, double kill for the Ashe.
Odo's looks so good right there. Such a fantastic ultimate, and H2k are going to take game 3.
Commanding victory in each and every one of these games. H2k bring it back 2-1 over Splyce.
Yeah, what a finish. That was just dirty. I feel like we got a cleanup crew to the side of Splyce there. Just wipe them off the concrete because they just got smashed in that final team fight. Forgiven. Just gonna check damage done real quick.
Want to know?
Wants to know.
Why don't we check too? We'll just get a quick look.
Nope.
I mean, that final team fight is exactly how you want to close out a game. And just looking at some of the damage dealt, there was quite a lot of damage coming out from that Gangplank. Late game Gangplank, ladies and gentlemen. We talked a lot about it during Champion Select. We have to backtrack very early on to what we saw where things were going in favor of Wonder early on. We thought that we would see a very early dive come out. H2k predicted it. They responded with that really great roam from the bottom lane up to the top, and that's really where the snowball started for H2k.
Yeah, that combined with the fact that Jankos was shadowing the right lanes at the right time, and just lurking around, checking if somebody was casually ganking the lane.
I'm going to be honest, that surprised me. I was like, oh.
Welcome to casting. Don't let it phase you. It doesn't exist. Don't break the fourth wall, you know?
Of course, on 6:15 too, it feels like a single early game mistake that leading to that tower first blood. If you give up that tower first blood, it just snowballs in your advantage so quickly.
Yeah, and then H2k seem to have a major focus on taking that the first turret. Got to keep tracking the win rate relationship with the first tower goal, because maybe
might be a little something there. But of course, we're about to get to match point here. But before we go, let's hear how Jankos feels about finally being able to play in front of his hometown crowd in Poland next week.